Alright guys, so now we have to replace the brake line on this side. When I went to pump up the brake line, it burst right here and fluid was everywhere. So what we have to do is we have to remove the banjo bolt that holds the brake line to the caliper. We have to unbolt this bolt here, which holds a bracket that's kind of attached to the line. And then thankfully I've already replaced this, so I know that this fitting will break free. There's a bolt here for the bracket. We unbolt that, then we can take the whole line off. Then we'll take this entire part over to the vise so we can remove the line from the bracket.
Let's do it.
If I remember correctly, this is an 11. Alright. This has been sitting for a few days, so we should be all set. So this is your banjo bolt, and what a banjo bolt is a hollow bolt with holes in the sides. You can see a hole right above my finger and a hole right here in the middle. Inside the end of the line around this hole is kind of open, so the brake fluid comes in, goes around that hole, gets pushed into this hole, and it comes out this, and that's what activates the piston. You're going to want to clean this, make sure there's no debris in there, and make sure that if the lock washer is stuck on here, you get it off. It looks like on this one though it's stuck on the brake line. This I think is 1/2 inch or 13 millimeter, which it is. Alright. I think that's all. There's a nut on the back of that, and I think it's all on there. Don't make me look dumb. I can do that enough on my own. I got another wrench under there that you guys can't really see. Ow, that's hot. Hooray! Alright, now we can get to this line, which should be 3/8. It's all wet over here because I soaked this thing in PB Blaster for a little bit. Alright. That line is out and out of the way. Now, let's get that off. Ow! That hurt. Alright. Now, as you can see, this doesn't really get on there fully. So, what you can do is take a pry bar, just bend it up a little bit. Just go to the floor. And once you do that, easier than usual. Alright, now that we got this line out, we need to get this bracket off. And it might be hard for you to see, but this is actually a hex. And this piece right here is threaded. And this is supposed to be threaded onto it. So what we're going to try and do is actually remove that. It looks like somebody chiseled it right there, so we might end up having to cut it. Alright, so I looked at it a little closer, and this is all chiseled so this knot won't spin back off. What I'm going to do is use a cutoff wheel. I'm going to go across right here and get this nut off. So it's cutting time. And remember, safety glasses. Ta-da! I only cut into it a little bit. I mean, I could barely feel that, so it's not that bad. Alright guys, so this is the new brake cable. Same thing, just new. And we have the bracket here, which is indented. And there's a flat spot here, and that seats like that. The only problem is, it didn't come with a new nut. I'm not sure if that's normal or not, but I found a solution. So I went to the hardware store and I picked up this. It's a 3/4 by 16 jam nut, and a jam nut is half the size of a regular nut. You're supposed to put two of them together and jam them so they can't back off. So what I'm going to do, because it's not jammed and I don't want this to back off, is I'm going to put a tiny bit of thread lock on here. That way this will stay on without vibrating and backing off, but it also won't be impossible to get off if I need to. So I got my thread locker. Like I said, I'm just going to put a little bit on here, and I'm just going to do it at the bottom of the threads. That way it doesn't grab too much of it. Oh, come on. Screw it down. We'll throw it in the vise. Use a 1 1/8 wrench. Notice how I'm holding it up here and not back at the end. I'm doing that so that I don't put too much pressure on this and over tighten it and ruin it. Alright, get that out of the vise and we are ready to reinstall. So it's not easy to see, but in here I cleaned that out. I made sure nothing got in the hole that goes down into the caliper. I made sure that the old copper crush washer is gone and all the crud was out of the way. So what we're going to do is just snake this into its general area, and I want to start by getting this on. If we don't start here, at least threading this in by hand, it's going to be a pain to do later. Now that that's done, we can take that bolt out, line that up, and we'll bend it back flat. Now we're going to find a bolt for that little bugger. Alright, so I found a nut and washer that fit. The bolt I'm using is 8 by 125 by 20 millimeters long. And just like before, I got a nut, a wrench on the back side. Last night when I was pulling video off the camera, I accidentally deleted the video for reinstalling the banjo bolt with the new crush washers and how to break a stubborn bleeder free. So we're going to go back over that right now. This is already broken free, but we're going to do it for demonstration purposes. So what I do when I have a stubborn bleeder, I get a hammer. I know, you're wondering why the hell would you need a hammer? Well, I'm going to show you. So what you want to do is you want to kind of give it some good whacks on the side, on the top, without hitting the bleeder. And what that does is it kind of jars any rust free, along with PB Blaster or any other penetrating oil. But if you just give it, the housing, or the caliper rather, a few decent whacks, that you know, that'll free that up a little bit. And another thing you can do is just lightly hit the top of the bleeder. If you hit that too hard, you're gonna mushroom it, and it's gonna stop fluid from coming out. And then the whole point is to send vibrations through it to try and, you know, break up the rust. I had to do it on the other side. That's why I was actually touching on this at all. The other side was bad, but I got it free. Now that we know that the bleeders are opening, let's replace those crush washers. All right, now because I'm a dummy and I filled the reservoir before I finished this side, we're gonna have to clamp off the brake line so no fluid comes through. And for that, I have these wonderful needle nose vice grips. I made these out of a pair I broke. I think I broke the bottom on this one, but I just shoved some hose over here. That way, it doesn't destroy the line when you clamp it over it. I use these all the time. They're better than actual line clamps. I've bent a few pairs of those to the point where they don't work anymore. That's gonna be fun to get back off. So let's get this banjo bolt out and replace those crush washers. Alright, top one's with the bolt. And it looks like the bottom one is stuck on there still. Before I pulled this, I blew out around the bolt and hose with the air gun just to make sure no debris fell in here when I did this. There we go. We have the new crush washers. Let's get that piece of crap off there. I'm just gonna clean it up. Make sure there's no dirt on it. Make sure the mating surface is good on the bolt itself. Make sure it's not destroyed. Come on, no. These don't go on straight. Sometimes they'll bind up. This one went on straight enough. So we'll throw that back in the hose. Put the bottom one on. Line it up. Now the banjo bolt, like I said before, it's a hollow bolt, so it doesn't have a ton of strength. So you don't want to tighten this too much. You just want to tighten it enough that it seats the grooves in the copper washers. That will hold the fluid in. Now I think it's time to bleed these things. What I'm using, because I'm by myself, is a vacuum bleeder, handheld vacuum bleeder. It has a little reservoir tank to catch the fluid. And all it does is put vacuum in the lines to pull any air out. These things are honestly great. I got this one for I think 20 bucks at Harbor Freight. Alright, as you guys can see, there's no more bubbles coming through. And that's what we're looking for. So we're going to call this side bled. So we got the brakes done. They're all bled. No bubbles, clean fluid. Everything seems to be working correctly. So now what we're going to do in the next little bit is we're going to focus on the steering. Checking tie rods, ball joints, idle arm, pivot arm, making sure all those are working, troubleshooting any issues that we may find, and repairing those if necessary. So join me in the next video in this little series about the Jimmy, and until next time, have fun.